Hi, welcome to the Calm Sober House YouTube channel. Today's video, what we're going to do is going to talk to Ollie, and Ollie's going to share his story about how he got clean from drugs. Yeah, hi, I'm Chris. I'm the co-founder of the Calm Sober House. I've got Ollie with me. Hi, Ollie.
Yeah.
Ollie's going to share his own personal story of addiction. But more importantly, he's going to talk about how he got into recovery. Ollie is actually now a staff member at the Calm, very valued staff member, should I say. But it wasn't always like that for Ollie. So we're going to go through his story and hopefully you can get a bit of inspiration because it is a success story. So Ollie, just tell us a little bit about your life as an addict and in particular when you kind of crossed that line into addiction.
Yeah, so going back to my early years, it obviously started with drinking from a young age, 13, and obviously moved into drugs. And then, if I look back at it now, the kind of main sort of, triggers I think about of crossing that line was when I lived in Bristol. I lived in Bristol for 8 years and was, we were using party drugs then, but it was, every single day. But there was 20 of us doing it, and, we were running parties and we were kind of doing all of this stuff. So it didn't really seem to be that bad, I suppose. And maybe it wasn't, maybe it was part of growing up. I think when I went to India, basically, it must have been 2005, maybe, something like that. I went with 2 friends, and I know deep down now, looking back at it, we went on a crusade to get wasted, basically, try new drugs, and obviously there's a lot of opium, heroin, etc. there, and that kind of creeped in about a month into the holiday, and I got back, stopped it, carried on with the party drugs, etc. But then it just kept creeping back in, the heroin, the crack use, not holding down jobs, losing friends, basically just not being able to stop doing it,
So was your friends did they stop after India, but were you the one who kind of carried on?
No, in fact both the friends I was using with in India, one's in recovery and one is in and out of recovery. You know what I mean? I kind of feel for someone like me who was very interested and inquisitive about drugs and wanting to escape the real world, I suppose, and responsibilities. Like it was the way I was going to go. You know what I mean? And sort of now I look back on it, the main things are, the obsession, basically.
Yeah, so
drugs.
we were talking earlier about some of the early warning signs, and I think this is really important. What would you say were, looking back now, some of the early warning signs that you would cross that line into addiction? How would someone know if they were?
Well, the obsession for one. When you wake up, that is your first port of call. Before you can function, before you can do anything else, it's the drugs. That's what you think about. Also, it went from using on my own and using with other people to, by the end of it, using solely on my own. You know what I mean? Lying to people, hiding it from people. I suppose that were for me the main warning signs, which when you're in addiction you don't see. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You kind of shut off the fact that I'm using every day on my own in my flat. Like, that isn't normal.
No.
Right? But when you're in it, it is normal because you're so far in it and gone. So
yeah, I think it's one of the biggest warning signs is that when you mentioned earlier that it started off with party drugs, and pretty much everyone starts that way, using with friends. But then there's that point where you start using on your own, lying, hiding your use from people, and then you've crossed that line, right?
Completely, and then your sort of circles of friends changes, and you're hanging out in wrong places where you don't want to be. Do you know what I mean? And your whole sort of life, your whole entire life revolves around it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From when you wake up to when you go to sleep, because when you run out, or even when I'd scored before I'd even done it, I was worrying about where I was going to get the next
Yeah.
load from. I wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't an enjoyable experience. It's just that constant vicious cycle. I
Just
suppose.
like maintaining a habit rather than
Constantly, yeah, you know. And yeah.
So was there ever any points where you kind of realised you was an addict and you tried to stop on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I had probably 8 years of on and off heroin and crack use, as well as the party drugs before it all came to a fucking head. You know what I mean? But yeah, I did geographicals, which you know is like moving country, moving city, moving house, just anything to try and you know cut off the ties with the past and what was going on, but.
Trying to run away from it.
Trying to run away from it, which now I know, and at the time I probably didn't know, but again, clouded mind, it doesn't work. Wherever you go, wherever you are in this world, you'll find it. You know, we were talking earlier, I even moved to Malawi in East Africa to a tiny little village on a lake. 2 days, found drugs, and it just carried on for the whole time, you know. You can't run away from it, it's dealing with the problem. And obviously I tried to stop using the harder drugs, just going out on the weekends. And yeah, I would do it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then always it just went back to that.
So why is it so difficult for people who are in addiction to stop on their own? Why is it so hard?
I just think you're just so disconnected from everything for a start. The big ones for me were pride and ego, which you hear a lot in recovery. It's just being able to put up your hands and just be like, you know, I'm done. I cannot do this anymore. Because, you know, I had had my girlfriend to admit everything to. I had my family, and for me, admitting to my family about the drugs I was using, it was a very alien world to them, you know, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it on my own, you know. And like a lot of the stuff you've done, you feel like you can't tell people because they'll judge you, they won't understand it. But you know, when you get into recovery, you do realise that there's a shitload of people in this exactly the same boat, who have done worse or not as bad, or you know what I mean. But there's no judgment there at all.
So why is it so difficult to admit you've got a problem and talk to people? And because you're saying earlier about being caught in that vicious cycle, right? Addiction,
Yeah.
and you're talking about guilt and shame, and why is it so difficult to admit to yourself and to other people that you've got a problem with addiction?
I think because I was using from such a young age, especially when you're growing up, when your body's developing, your brain, etc. Like, I feel like I never knew who I really was, right? And I created this persona of who I thought I was. You know, someone who was fun, out and about, you know, running this, doing this party, etc. But to suddenly take all of the drugs and the parties and the this away and be left with who I was, I think I was just bloody scared, mate, basically. I was really scared of the consequences, I suppose. I knew probably deep down that my family would support me, but it was just it was fear of who I was without the drugs, which have kind of kept me not alive, I suppose maybe alive for 20 years. You know what I mean? Being able to sort of live, I suppose. And it was just that was kind of the hardest thing for me, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point actually. I think being fearful of what recovery is going to look like, how am I going to recover, not just having no idea who you are.
Yeah, will I still have my friends? You know, will I still have my girlfriend? Will my family still respect me?
Yeah.
There's all of this kind of stuff when you actually are straight up honest about what the hell's really going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was fear that stopped me getting clean for a long time. Yeah, good point. Well, this is a success story. You are in recovery. How long have you been clean from drugs now?
About 11 months now.
11 months?
Yeah.
Well done. So
coming
tell
up
us a little bit about your recovery journey. When did you stop? and what did you do? You went off to rehab, right?
Yeah.
Tell me what triggered you going to rehab. What was the point that pulled you out of that?
Yeah, so obviously the end of my using days, there was a lot of scamming, cheating people for money, robbing, all of the bad stuff that comes with addiction, right? And I basically I cheated a friend, a very good friend, out of a load of money. Gave him the sob story about why I needed the money, people coming around, etc. Anyway, he gave me the money because he was scared, I guess, about what the other ways I was going to get the money if he didn't give it to me, right? Anyway, he didn't believe me. So he kind of did some digging around behind the scenes, called a few people he knew that I used to sort of use with, and eventually they kind of backed down and told him everything that I'd been up to, and that basically I needed some serious help. And he told my little sister, and then they both challenged me on it, basically. And I put my hands up straight away.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important point, actually. I think especially if you've got a friend who's going through addiction, to try and find a way to do an intervention, and challenge them on it. They're in trouble and they need help. And I think that, we distance ourselves, or my friends did, they distanced themselves from my addiction, but it sounds like you had a really good friend there who kind of intervened, right? And it's brilliant. So
thank God, because
yeah.
I would have still been probably kidding myself that everything was all right. I could sustain this, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So then what was your journey like? You went off to rehab, right?
Yeah, rehab in northern Thailand. So yeah, within 4 days of having the intervention, I was on the plane. I wanted to go quick before my brain sort of told me that I wasn't that fucked and everything will be all right,
Yeah.
So yeah, then I spent 2 months in primary treatment, which was, the first couple of weeks obviously were hard. You've got the detox, which isn't great, obviously, but then you've just got this sort of where you are comes to reality. Like, fuck, I'm actually in a rehab. And I was a nightmare for a week, I'll admit it. I was, a little entitled child, basically.
Only for a week?
Yeah, only for a week, but something clicked, mate. I don't know what it was. One day I was just sitting in my room looking out the window and something just clicked, and I was just like, I really am done with this. I'm here for a reason, and I did it. I might have had the intervention, but I could have not come. I could have got out of it. But I'm here for a reason, and I'm gonna, make the best of it. And from then on, I really put all my effort into, groups getting fucking honest. The willingness to get better, basically. And it was amazing. I loved it after that. Do you know what I mean? It was just those first couple of weeks. It's a strange place to be. It kind of reminded me, like being back at boarding school, which I rebelled against so much. To basically being back in that environment and being told what to do and when to get up and when to eat, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
But as soon as I ate a bit of humble pie, I realised what I was there for and where I was gonna go if I went back home. Then I don't know. Yeah, just sort of something clicked, and it's been pretty good since then.
So would you say that rehab's a really good place to go if you're stuck in that vicious cycle? Rehab is one of them places that can kind of lift you out of that isolated place that all addicts reach, and basically take you from death's door, right, and get you back on your feet. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think it's really important. It's just, you just get that connection again, and then I'd never really been I'd never been in a recovery setting, around people, including the counsellors, all the staff that are in recovery themselves, and for the first time in my life to be honest and open and non-judgmental, and it's a liberating experience. It took, as I said, it took a bit of time, but I definitely needed it. Do you know what I mean? Because and as an addict, you do what you want when you want, all the time. But I needed a kick up the arse. I needed a big kick up the arse, and being dragged out that circle, and being shown that life is worth living, I suppose.
So then that's when we met, right? So
Yeah.
you left rehab, you decided to come, or to go to sober living, and then you found us at the Calm, and then that's when we met. How important do you think that the sober living part of your recovery journey has been? So if people are going to rehab, would you suggest they go to sober living afterwards, and why? Why would sober living?
Yeah, 100%. For me, you know, even coming up to the last few days in primary treatment, you know, you're with other people. You know, they're writing these you know, discharge plans and what they're going to do when they get home, and these things are full, right?
Yeah.
And it's daunting, right? If I'd gone back to London with, like, I'm going to do this, million meetings, blah, 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 you know, God knows what would happen. And I know it doesn't work because, unfortunately, friends I was in treatment with have ended up back using. So, for me, coming to sober living and being able to find that balance, you know, and I crashed. You know, I crashed at the Calm. I was Mr.
Everybody does.
I did everything. I was joining this, charities, this, and eventually just like, bosh.
Yeah.
But you don't, you know, I was in a safe space with a great community, great people around. You don't use off of it. You know, you kind of feel the emotions, and then you just get back into it slowly and work out the balance which works for you.
What would have happened if you'd have gone through that crash at home? So if you'd have gone from rehab, gone back home, because a lot of people go back home from rehab quite enthusiastic, and then there is always that crash, there's that landing back to reality. And what's the danger of kind of doing that back at home rather than doing it in sober living?
Well, I think relapse, you know, because, I don't know, if I went back home, I'd have immediately have to be like trying to find jobs, right? And then obviously in active addiction, I'd try and go to jobs, go to interviews, look a bit booky, and like obviously I wouldn't get the jobs kind of thing. So if I'd gone back into not getting jobs, feeling shit about myself, falling back into that self-pity, I suppose, of, you know, is it really worth it? And especially being in London, you know, or any major city where drugs are so easily available, like I dread to think I would have gone, mate.
Perfect storm, wouldn't it have been?
Yeah.
Relapse,
Do you know what I mean? And that's why the Calm is so, well, any sober living is so important, because I had the ups, I had the crash, I had a really good support network around me that could guide me through it, you know, could get me out of, you know, because I remember isolating for a bit, you know, just spending days in my room watching shit, and, you know, the community as well, it just picks you up, and then slowly sort of started being like, okay, well, I liked that, but that was a bit of an effort. And you kind of piece together,
a
recovery and a balance that works for you in a safe space where you're accountable for your actions, because, you know, the Calm is structured, but you do have free time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I could go out there and get this to be using behind closed doors, and yes, I might get away with it for a bit, but at the end of the day, you're accountable for what you're doing, and also you're accountable for other people in the place. You're putting other people at risk that want to take their recovery seriously. But, you know, if you get those, you know, those urges and triggers, then you've got people to talk to.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's staff or whether it's other people that you're living with. You know, everyone is in the same boat as you.
Yeah. And I think that's what it is. I think it's the sober living's a great place to practice recovery, practice living a sober life. And, you know, some people do relapse in sober houses, but then they can pick themselves up again, have little blips along the way. There's all kinds of challenges, and you're faced with all your triggers. But, you know, I think, like you said, Ollie, you know, it's important to still be accountable for your behaviour in sober living. You know, I think it's a really important thing.
Yeah, and it gets you also, like, you know, if you're suffering from, say, how am I going to be without drinking drugs if I go out for, like, dinner, or we do this? And, you know, like, sober houses, the Calm, you know, we go out for dinners, and it kind of just teaches you to, like, be comfortable, I suppose, in a setting where drink was the norm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So how long did you do in rehab, and how long did you do in sober living?
I did 2 months in primary, and I did 4 months with you in the end. Three and 2/3, I think it was.
And now you're living on your own. You've gone on to that next stage. You're living in Thailand. You've built your life. What do you do to maintain your sobriety?
So I found the balance that works in you know, for me, where I'm at now. So I sort of mix between gym. I've started playing rugby again, which was a passion of mine when I was younger, and obviously all went to shit when I started, you know, heavily using. CA and NA, having a sponsor, and doing service with you. You know, I think service is a huge part. And even when I'm not doing service here, you know, I'm still helping friends back in the UK who are in trouble. You know, I'm trying to, you know, what's the word? Trying to tell them that even though it's bloody difficult, I probably wouldn't have listened to me. You know,
you wouldn't have listened to yourself.
No, I wouldn't have listened to myself. But you know, it feels good to just help people. You know, and we do some stuff. You know, charity work at the con, teaching the Burmese refugees, and I just took for so long in my life.
Yeah.
And to give back is an amazing thing. And I'm not saying it's, you know, it's easy. You know, I have shit days, shit couple of days, shit weeks, you know, but I don't use on those feelings anymore.
Yeah.
And I've got an amazing network of friends, the meetings, you know, people back in the UK that I can talk to.
Yeah.
And my sponsor when I'm not feeling good.
Yeah, so important to have a support network. Like, absolutely important to have a sponsor, working the program, doing a bit of service, helping in the community, and just learning to find that balance in life, right?
Yeah, no, of course. And as we said before, you know, like addiction is a full-time massive job, but recovery it takes work every day.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a different kind of work. It's a fulfillment work, and you're bettering yourself and other people through it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you should be proud of yourself. I mean, you know, for anyone to get out of addiction, no matter what substance you're using, is extremely difficult. And my addiction was heroin, yours too. And I think that the figures for people getting out of heroin addiction, unfortunately, are not great. You know, so I think you should be really proud of yourself and what you're doing, you know, and that you committed to your recovery, and I see now that you're just as committed as you was when you was in sober living, you know, so you should be really proud of yourself.
Thanks.
So I'm going to ask you a really difficult question. What advice would you give to anyone who's watching this video that might be stuck in addiction? What would be any like real nuggets of advice?
Breaking the circle. I mean, how you do that, I mean, that's the key. It's breaking the vicious cycle. Reaching out, I suppose, but I know how difficult it is to do that, because I kind of wanted to but didn't until I was kind of challenged. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So try and find some way of reaching out.
Some way.
No matter whether, you know, no matter what you've done or how guilty you feel or shameful, you have to start talking
You
to
have
people.
to start talking to someone, and the best way, you know, if you can't afford treatment, there are other ways of doing that. You know, the fellowships. You know, no matter what a cult I thought it was to start with, it's actually an incredible thing. You know, you're surrounded by people who can help you, who want to help you, and charge nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can go in there clean, you can go in there, you know, wasted.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you're not a nightmare, people understand.
Yeah.
You know, they're the most understanding people that you can do. So, you know, as we spoke about at the beginning, you know, if you are using alone, you know, if you are obsessed with drugs, no matter what drugs they are, and if you're kind of lying to people about your usage, then you do need to reach out. And I know it's difficult, but you just got to try, really. You know what I mean? And you know, and also, like, you know, we spoke about before, you've got to be ready for it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. You do. You see a lot of people come through treatment and are kind of just almost on a detox. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until your heart's in it, your addict brain will win.
Yeah.
Basically. Every time, you know.
Alright, thanks Ollie. I hope that if you're watching this video you got some inspiration, and also that we gave you some tips, you know, about crossing the line in addiction and how you can kind of get out of it. Even if you are finding it difficult to reach out to people, you can always go on the website. My phone number's on there. Ollie's here as well. We will talk to you. You know, we have no judgment around anything you've done. Me and Ollie have been there. So if you like this video, please press the like button and subscribe, and also start leaving some comments, because it's really good that we can start opening up some discussions about addiction, and we can hopefully start answering your questions as well. So yet again, I'm Chris from the Calm Sober House, and thanks for watching this video.